Hey everyone. Sometimes the teams that are the most toxic are not the ones that fight. They're the ones that never do. The ones where everyone is smiling, where no one is disagreeing, and everything looks fine until it's not. Because in these settings, peace without honesty is not trust, it's fear. And there's a moment where every founder and creator hits where the team's feeling like it's working, where everything feels aligned, and you're in this spot where meetings are calm. People say, I love where this is heading. There's this inner sense of it's working for you, but inside you also know something feels off, and no one is challenging anymore. Everyone is too quick to say yes. There's this feedback that feels softer. It doesn't have the same edge to it, or doesn't have the same kind of directness that's needed. It's kind of pulled back. It's restrained feedback. It's not honest feedback. And you're telling yourself, maybe it's maturity. Maybe it's everyone kind of leveling up and we're actually doing the right things now. But here's the truth. Artificial harmony looks like progress until the silence starts costing you innovation. And the biggest threat to growth isn't conflict. It's actually the avoidance of that conflict. A few years ago, I was on a team that had everything going for it. Smart people, meaningful work, but something in the culture felt off, felt almost staged. It was like everyone got along too well, so to speak. And it wasn't until a challenge came in the meetings where I saw how the team and the leader didn't know how to handle a moment of challenge, of honest thoughts, because the culture had done something which is really unique. It had become, it's weird to say this, but almost too respectful of the leader, to the point where everyone was kind of preserving that leader's position and preserving their right standing with that leader. So whenever that leader said anything, no one really challenged it. No one had an idea that was different. It was almost like, yeah, everybody can have their opinion, but when this person talks, that's the final say. And I think that started to actually cost the culture, because people started to stop showing up with the same level of honesty, and they stopped showing up in a way that would bring the right challenge to things based on their perspective. Because what they basically did, they reduced the organization's perspective to one person, and people stopped bringing their strength. They realized it wasn't worth it, because the culture didn't know how to handle when the leader didn't know what to do, so to speak, when the environment brought a challenge or feedback to their idea. And artificial harmony always demands a sacrifice, and the sacrifice is usually truth. And people become too afraid to challenge an idea because they're trying to protect something. They're trying to protect their right standing with that leader. They're trying to protect their position in the culture. They're trying to protect their jobs. They feel afraid that if they say something like this, it might cost them something. And the reality is that environment has made it so that it is dangerous to speak truth or honesty because it might cost you too much. And that's the leader's responsibility. It's actually not the culture's responsibility. You can say, well, that's just a person's perspective. Even that might be. A leader still makes the right conditions for leadership to thrive in others. One of a leader's main jobs is to create the conditions for the leadership of others to thrive, not just their leadership to thrive. I think that's a really key distinction, because I think a lot of people go into leadership making it about what their strengths are as a leader, versus going, my strengths are there to create an environment that lets other leaders thrive. And when you let other leaders thrive, that means they're going to think. That means they're going to have different opinions. It doesn't always mean they're right. It just means they have other opinions. And if the environment doesn't welcome those opinions, those leaders will shut down and eventually look elsewhere where their strength is welcomed. Not that agreement with them is welcomed, but that their strength, their opinions, their perspective, their ideas are welcomed. So here's what I learned after developing leaders and teams for over a decade is trust isn't built by agreement. It's built by honesty. It's built by vulnerability. It's built by letting you in a little bit deeper than the surface level of agreement. It's not that great teams fight all the time, because I think that's also what people might think is going, are you saying we should be fighting all the time and just constantly yelling? No, I don't think you should be yelling, period. But what I am saying is that you need to learn how to fight well. And fighting well is different than avoiding conflict or having big blowouts. They're able to fight with respect. They're able to argue around ideas, not people. This is not you attacking a person and their personality and their perspective in life. It's you challenging an idea and wrestling with an idea. It's about being able to challenge in private as well, have hard conversations one-to-one. And they care, in these environments, they care more about the mission than comfort. They recognize how critical it is for them to show up with their honesty. It's Abraham Lincoln talks about it in his book, Team of Rivals. You see this in so many healthy organizations that bring in the diverse perspectives that make everyone better, because real culture is honesty that makes everyone better. And artificial harmony is when comfort is disguised as culture. Let me say that again. Artificial harmony is when comfort is disguised as culture. And so we have to overcome this thing where we've built a culture of good vibes only over truth. We don't want the boat to get rocked. We don't want to deal with the relational tension of people having true opinions and perspectives. We're nervous about the moment in a meeting where someone says something that's different than the leader or someone else, and they disagree. All of a sudden, their anxiety goes up because they've never been in an environment where disagreement is okay. And this happens in so many levels, even outside of companies. Creators are saying yes to brands they don't believe in because they're not able to handle having a diverse opinion and being different and having a disagreement. And so they take on brands they don't even believe in. You have founders who hire people they like who will never, ever challenge them. And you got people who sell this safeness instead of the right thing. And we call it alignment. And that's such a, it's such a sucky way to lead your brand. It honestly is you limiting your brand to yourself as a leader. And you've made it so that in order for your brand to thrive, it has to sound, look, and be just like you. And I think there's an important part of the founder's DNA into a brand. I do think that's true. But what I am saying is that a team and a brand, when it starts to develop, you need the diversity of opinions to sharpen an idea, because an unsafe idea is an idea that's been built in an echo chamber that hasn't had the moment to have it be sharpened by other ideas to make it through and go, this still is the right idea. And the best leaders that I've been with and know welcome diverse opinions, and they create spaces and environments where it is not dangerous to disagree. These leaders create those environments. They don't just assume that, they create them. They're intentional. They take steps to making sure their team is able to share those opinions. A phrase I've used with my team before is going, is there anything you are too scared to say right now about my perspective that you need to share for us to succeed? Is there anything you're too scared to say about my perspective that we need to hear for us to succeed? I think welcoming in diversity and welcoming in disagreement is the sign of maturity as a leader. It's immature when you have to kind of protect your idea so much that no one disagrees with it. And here's the thing. When your team disagrees with you, they're not actually in defiance. I think a lot of leaders think if they disagree, my team's in defiance. No, what your team is actually trying to do is own your vision. When the vision of a founder for this brand is sitting inside of them and doesn't transfer. And when we think transfer, we think that it's just going to be a pill, you swallow it, and it goes down smooth. No, when your team is trying to own this vision, they're going to wrestle with it. So disagreement is actually them trying to own the vision as well. And a lot of leaders think disagreement is defiance, and it's not. That's your immaturity speaking. So we need to welcome environments where feedback isn't personal, but it builds trust and it's not dangerous. So people can have these disagreements and realize if I disagree, I can still belong. And that is you as a leader to reward disagreement, thank them for giving a diverse opinion. And here's the thing, when you have an environment where people can share the different opinions, it doesn't mean you have to take them. It's not that you're saying, all right, now we're no longer going to do what I say. What you're saying is, I want to be able to stand on what I say even in the midst of opinions. So bring your ideas to the table and we'll still wrestle with the best one. And it still might be mine or it might be yours. Just because you have a disagreement doesn't mean that that is right. It just means people are showing up enough and care enough to challenge for success, not challenge you as a person just to go, I want to challenge you and defy you. No, they're challenging an idea. So if your team feels stuck, it may not even be because of burnout. It actually could be because of politeness. Politeness could be the problem. So you need to ask yourself, when was the last time someone on your team disagreed in a way that made you better? If you don't have something in recent memory, you need to go and ask your team, hey, is there something we're doing that we're too scared to talk about? You got to have the emotional awareness, the resilience as a leader to do that, because what you're essentially saying is, let's disrupt the calm to make us better. And you have to stay stable as a leader, steady as a leader to do that. And so, because at the end of the day, we have to look at it like this, because at the end of the day, some of the most toxic teams are the ones where people never, ever disagree. And there is artificial harmony. There is no trust and there's a lack of conflict. And at the end of the day, results start to fade. You might think they won't because everybody's getting along. They will fade. Leaders who have to be silenced to exist in a space will go find other places to lead. So you as a leader have to create an environment where great leaders are not silenced, but great leaders are able to bring their voice and their strength to make everyone better. I'm Chris Cruz, and I lead a branding agency here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm here unpacking the human side of building brands and the leaders that make them worth following. I do that on this channel. So if this is something you're interested in, subscribe. I even want to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. I want to hear your different opinions. Share with me what you think about this. So on this channel, I do that. And on the other channel that I have, Anatomy of a Brand, I do interviews with founders, entrepreneurs, marketers, and creatives. And I hear what makes a brand thrive so that your brand doesn't settle. So you can head over to that channel as well, called Anatomy of a Brand, where we even do these documentary style storytelling around brands in real life in Nashville. So you can head over to that channel and subscribe and see what we got going on there as well. Otherwise, thanks for joining me today.